And no matter how we experience stress, there's one thing that we all have in common. Our primary stress reactions are actually what we would call primal, meaning that we're looking at life through the lower level parts of our fully developed brain. And so when we feel stressed, we tend to react and not actually respond. So we blame it on somebody else, which happens a lot, or we hide and hope that it goes away. But I think what we do more often than not, especially as women, is we start comparing ourselves to everybody else and thinking about how everyone else has it worse than we do. And so we really shouldn't take it so hard, or we really should just get over it. And we try to speed through that process very quickly. But what happens is when we don't actually use the energy of stress, we just push it down into our system and we bottle it up. And it starts to turn against us. And I feel like a lot of stress these days, we're kind of sweeping it off into a bucket, wanting to pretend like it's not really there, but we carry the bucket on our back all day long. And it's exhausting and it's overwhelming. And unfortunately, it spills out and affects everybody else around us. How many of you have been somewhere and someone's walked into a room and you could feel their stress? Raise your hand. Don't look at them if they're in the room, right? How about someone who's more relaxed or more grounded or more connected? Can you feel that as well? Now, there's a study that just came out a few weeks ago that actually showed, using animal models, that stress is highly contagious, something I've been talking about for a long time. Now, we know that we have these non-conscious cues that we're constantly picking up from each other that warn us that there's a potential threat in our environment. So it makes sense that stress would be contagious. But it turns out it might be even more than that. There might be actual pheromones that we release into the space around us, not just electromagnetic fields, which we can also measure, extending 5 feet beyond our heart, that we can feel people's patterns and we start to mimic their breath rate and their heart rate, but that there actually might be a chemical being released that causes us to pick that up, and our non-conscious is now saying that stress is yours too. It's one of the most important things that we can keep in mind, that when we say everyone else has it worse than I do and I don't really need to take care of myself because everyone else needs me, that stress is spilling over to everybody else. And in fact, the greatest gift that we can give to others is our ability to be present in the moment and grounded, and to trust that we have the resources we need to deal with the stress of our lives, because stress isn't going anywhere. So when I say, I think I might have a cure for stress, I'm not saying that I want stress to go away. It turns out we actually need it to adapt and grow. But what I'm saying is, despite how many times you've probably heard that stress is good for you, stress, the type that's chronic and unmanaged, still leads to 75 to 90% of medical visits. And it's costing the US economy $600 billion a year. And those statistics are continuing to increase. So we can sit back and say, well, stress is good for you, so be grateful that you have all those challenges. Or we can say we need to change our relationship with the stress of our lives.